Podcast is now starting. These are in listen only.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGeek webinars. Our endeavor to empower techies. I am Bharat, product manager at techgeek.com. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key of enhancing our performances and for our growth as professionals. With this principle in mind, TechGeek has initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to creating a technology-driven startup. Our guest speaker today is Saurabh Mishra, founder and CEO of S-Quotient Analyzers. S-Quotient Analyzers is an organization which focuses on competence assessments and benchmarking. Some of the marquee customers of S-Quotient are Microsoft, Nokia, Educomp, Fiserv, IndiaMart, and Bharti Group, etc. Saurabh Mishra has held various. He completed his PGDM from IIM Kolkata in 1996. Majoring in marketing and finance. Prior to that, he did his BTech in electronics and communication with a gold medal. He has passions for movies, music, and literature. An avid writer, he keeps publishing in various magazines. This presentation will continue for the next 45 minutes and will take your questions in the last 15 minutes. You can post your questions in the meanwhile on techgeek.com. I introduce you to our guest speaker.
Thank you, Bharat. Thanks a lot for the introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Saurabh Mishra. I'm extremely happy to be presenting this webinar to you, which is creating a technology-driven startup. Bharat gave my introduction, but I'll just briefly, take you through about the journey of my life again. I graduated in '96 from IIM Calcutta, worked for almost 10 years, 5 years in HCL and 5 years in Microsoft, before starting S-Quotient, before founding and starting S-Quotient. And therefore, it's very much an entrepreneurial journey which I have been leading for the last 5 years or almost 6 years now in driving this organization. I'll be very glad to share my experiences, my suggestions, and my advice for all of you, and will be very happy to take any questions if there may be towards the end. What is the presentation plan? What I'm going to talk about? I'll start with how to take the first steps, how are tech-driven startups different broadly from the other kind of startups, how we'll discuss about the idea, the business planning, the critical success factors, the things which take first step. So how do you know you are an entrepreneurial material? Starting with, if you're a creative person, if you get these thoughts that you would like to do certain things differently, you have definitely the potential to be an entrepreneur. If you feel the need to make a difference in the life of a lot of people, once again, you are an entrepreneurial material. A lot of social entrepreneurs today are driven both by creativity and they need to make a difference. The third thing, you don't want to lead a very easy life, or you're rather getting bored of easy life, probably entrepreneurship is the way for you to go. And last two things, very critical as well, with a smiley at the end, you're bored of watching movies, matches, or spending time with your spouse on the weekends. Please go ahead, become an entrepreneur. Lastly, if you're not so happy with your boss and you think you can do better than him, well, you are very much on your road to entrepreneurship. Now let's come to the next point. I think I'm having a little bit of problem. Right. How are the tech-driven startups different from other kinds of startups? Well, the fundamentals of the business remain the same. I mean, everybody who is into business, who wants to get into business, has to create an organization, and that organization has to do certain basic functions. And therefore, the fundamentals remain the same. But the technology-driven startups, well, have certain characteristics. Number one, they may have higher investment needs. They have a potential to scale globally. A lot of organizations which you see today, examples like eBay, Google, Salesforce.com, etc., are very much technology-driven startups, and they have scaled globally, and they have this reach across geographies in the world. And third thing is need better management of human resources. Now, people are the most important part of the organization. I'm going to talk about it further down the presentation as well. But in a technology-driven startups, there is nothing more important than good people and better management of them. So let's start with idea. All of us, get into business or something when we feel that we have got this great idea or the big idea. Now, if we talk about a technology-driven startup, it can be about a product, a particular idea you have of a product, which can be, something like, once again, I would give example of eBay, which is an auction portal, or again, Google.com, which is a search engine or whatever it is. Or you may have a tech startup which, you want to do certain services, right? This regular software services or any other technology-driven services solution which you want to offer to the potential customers in India or abroad. Or the third thing can be some very cool invention which you have done on technology front, right? There's a lot of, ink technology or again search technology or something which you have done, and you think there are certain gaps which are existing in today's technology, and you want to offer some technology on that, and therefore that may again form an idea for a tech startup. But at the end of the day, whatever startup which you're creating, a technology startup or a technology-driven startup, it has to solve some specific business problem or a latent need. Now let me just kind of elaborate on both of these points. When we talk about some specific business problem, the examples are like, search. So Google solves your search problem. Or you may have a CRM or a SaaS-based CRM solution, which solves your business problem of a customer relationship management. So these are very specific business problems. But sometimes you may have a need. And a lot of times that need may not be very manifested or maybe very latent in nature. For example, if you look at Facebook, I think all of us had that need to kind of socialize, interact, share details about our lives with each other. But, it was not very, need which was formulated as a business problem by a lot of people. But then came Facebook and other social networking sites, and they kind of fulfilled that need as well. What are the critical points which we have to think about the idea? Now, it's very easy. It's very, very easy to fall in love with your idea. And that's one point which all of us have to be very careful about. But these are the critical points which we need to look at. Number one, how is my idea going to be disruptive to the way things are being done? Is it going to fundamentally change the way certain things are done? How easy it is for someone to replicate my idea or model? Is it something which, it's very easy for someone to copy it? Then trust me, I may have a great idea, but it may not remain my idea for very long. It may get, implemented by a lot of other people. Now, talking about disruption is also very, very important. I think, I'll give an example of Apple here. I think all of us have this, very much need to share music, watch films, share films, share our files and so on and so forth. But I think, the way iPod came and kind of, said that here is a device which gives you, a very fantastic experience of listening to the music. And, I have some iTunes also to be downloaded onto this device. Or then came iPad. An iPad today, for example, I'm sure a lot of us or you may be using iPads, and you might have read very recently that the iPads have started disrupting the PC industry. The PC shipments of a lot of big companies like Hewlett Packard, etc., are falling. So clearly, these are examples of the products or the solutions or technology-driven products or solutions which are creating disruption in the regular business models. Okay, so these are the 3 points, like, is it disruptive? Is it easy for someone to replicate? Is it really going to change the way a lot of things done? Are the very critical points which you should put your idea under scrutiny through. Then, as far as technology people are concerned, I know coming from a technology background. A lot of us have this thing that should we go for a services model or a product model? We'll discuss this point again a little later. But the point is that services are easier to get into, but more difficult to scale. Products are more difficult to build, need more patience, but the scalability becomes easier in the products. A typical example, maybe an Intel processor, replicate those products or get those products to was, just kind of replicate those products and just, ship them to the customers globally. Now, let's say you have come to a stage where, you've validated your idea, you think it's a big idea, it's going to disrupt, it's not easy to replicate. Now let's get into some serious business planning. Ask these questions. What would be my revenue model? How am I going to make money? Who's going to pay for the product or the services or the technology which I'm going to create? What is the revenue plan for the next 5 years? Is it going to grow year on year? Would my profit and loss projections grow year on year? What is going to be my sales and marketing strategy to achieve those targets? We'll come back to this point of sales and marketing as well again. It's a very critical point. What are the resources which would be required to achieve those targets? How much money would I need? What kind of people would I need? Would I need just the technology people? Or I need to complement them with some excellent sales and marketing people as well? How would I scale to the next level? So probably when I've got this idea, I'm thinking, oh, okay, I've just got product. You know what? I'll sell it to so many people. And I multiply, I'll get revenue, X revenue out of for Y number of people. So the total number of revenue the total amount of revenue I'm going to make is XY. And out of that, my profit is going to be Z. My cost is going to be Z. So my profit is X into Y minus Z. But then the question is, well, when is this XY minus Z going to happen? And once it has happened, how do I go to the next level? Or I want to continue where I am or where I would be. Because in businesses, the critical point is that either you grow, you can't stay where you are for very long. Either you'll have to grow or you'll perish. These are very, very critical points which have to be asked in business plan. So just go and download some, business modeling sheets. I'm sure there are tons of them available on the net. Just put your idea and your business into those models. Create a P&L projections. And I'm sure a lot of, us who are from technology background may not have done that or are not professionally probably trained to do that. Well, it may not be a bad idea to talk to someone who has done something like this to help you do that. Or otherwise, trust me, I think there's no rocket science in all of these things. Just put a little bit of time, effort, and energy, and you would be able to do it yourself. So business planning is very, very critical. Before you jump into finally doing what you want to do, you should be you should have been already through with validating your idea and doing a very, very comprehensive business planning. Now let's go to the next part. What are the critical success factors? What would define that I'm going to succeed? What are the basic minimum things which I must do? Now, trust me, critical success factors can become very, very idea specific or business specific or industry specific. But I'm still trying to generalize here and put some of the critical success factors which would be broadly applicable to as many, industries or scenarios involving technology-driven startups. Number one, think big. Think big. think as big as possible. I'm reminded of this example where whenever Mukesh Ambani, and I, read this somewhere, that whenever Mukesh Ambani would go to his father, Sri Dhirubhai Ambani ji, and say that, look, I have got this idea or this is what I want to do, Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani would send him back and say that, come back to me, that how would you do 100 times, how would you, how would you have an idea which is 100 times of this idea which you're telling me? You're telling me that you can do 10 crores. How can you do 100 times of that in the next couple of years? Similarly, when the idea of the Reliance Infocom came and people went to him, his Anil Ambani and Mukesh Ambani went to him and said that, this is how we are planning for the business. We'll have so many subscribers and this is going to be the cost. And therefore we'll have, so much of revenue in so many years. He said, you guys are not thinking it right. Because you are saying that you will charge 2 rupees per call or 3 rupees per call. But that's not the way the business is going to grow. He said, I would like every person on the street to use a Reliance connection. And he said that, today that person communicates with his family using a 25 paisa postcard. So what you need to do is to ensure that your call cost doesn't exceed 25 paisa for him. So go back on the drawing board, think how you're going to make it happen and then come back to me. And that's what exactly Reliance Infocom did. And trust me, I'm sure their competitors like Airtel and Vodafone have done very well. But the factor which, this was the Dhirubhai Ambani factor which ensured that every grocery vendor, every milkman in the street, every driver got access to mobile communication. So think big. The other part about thinking big is that actually thinking big is easier and execution of thinking big is also easier, right? Let's say you want to create, a product which you will, which has X cost and you will monetize over Y number of customers. Probably, if you think big, your cost would not increase by too much amount, but your monetization can grow much, much, much larger. Actually, that was fundamentally the logic behind Windows, operating system. Because till that time, till Microsoft came into prominence, most of the operating systems which were written, were written by and large for proprietary platforms, and therefore for, let's say, Unix systems, etc., which were tightly integrated with the hardware, and they had very limited number of installations, and therefore, their cost was very high. And this is how Bill Gates and Steve Jobs came and disrupted that market, saying that why should the computing be limited to people at the back end? Why should not every user get access to personal computer or computing devices? And therefore, the operating system which I'm going to create is going to run on all of them, and therefore, we would not have a space of just 50 computers in the world, as IBM had said in the year 1946, but probably, millions of computers. Now, today, all of this looks, very apparent, but go back to year 1975 and just think that the people who would have thought it that way probably thought it very, very big at that time and thought it very, very differently. So think big. When you think big, there'll be a lot of people who would be interested in listening to your idea. When you think big, there'll be a lot of people who will get associated with you to execute your idea. If you think small, you would never grow. You would also not be able to scale to the next level very easily. So think big. The second is that the team is of paramount importance. Now, this is generally true, and as I've written in the presentation, but it's so much more true in case of technology startups. Now, in technology startups, as I would repeat it later as well, a lot of us get enamored and, fall in love with the technology we have created. We fall in love with the features of the product which we have thought. And we think these features are very cool and, I'm going to be, a very rich man selling these features and products. But the fact is, that in technology-driven startups, also, as in any other organization, but probably much more in technology startups, you need to have people who are very good in sales and marketing. Otherwise, you may create the best product, but it won't sell. And that is why if you see a lot of good companies, organizations which have succeeded, had a very good starting team with them. Whether you look at international organizations like Microsoft, where you had Bill Gates and Paul Allen and some of these guys who started Microsoft, or even if you want to look at Indian companies, look at Infosys. There were 7 founding members. Look at HCL. HCL had 6 to 7 founding members. And all of them had some very interesting complementary skills. Some people were very good in technology orientation. Some were good in delivery or, serving the customers. And some had phenomenal brains for finance. Some had phenomenal brains for marketing. So team is of paramount importance, number one. Number two, the point which I've not written here is try and get team on board before you get into, the execution. Because once you get into that cycle of executing your idea, and if you don't have a team in place, then by that time it's too late for you to create the team. It's not easy to create the team at that level. So create your team before you start executing it. Be focused. Don't try to do too many things. Don't try to do too many things. You know what? I've seen, we are in competence benchmarking. I see some of my competitors and I've seen some of the other organizations. They try to do so many things. They want to do assessments. They want to do training. They want to do placements. The problem is, at the end of the day, if you are starting out, you have very limited resources. You have limited money, and the biggest limitation you have is the kind of time you have. And if you try to spread yourself too thin on that, you will end up not doing anything very properly. So don't try too many things. B, there is no such thing as a part-time business. So please don't think that I'll keep working and keep drawing this nice salary which I'm drawing in whatever organization I'm working, but as a part-time, let me start it on a part-time and see how it succeeds, how it works. Please don't do that. If you want to start a business, please jump into it. Of course, after validating your idea, after doing the business planning, but then once you're convinced that there is a potential for that business, please jump into it full time. Take that risk. I've seen so many people who have started something at part-time. Very interestingly, it started working also, but then they reached a level that they had to leave their job to get full-time into it, and they didn't have courage at that time. Oh, it was a very, very drastic situation to get into. So there is no such thing as a part-time business. Third, try and solve a specific problem. Try and see, okay, it goes back to the point, please don't fall in love with the product or the solution or the feature or the technology or what is the latest things which are happening or Ruby on Rails or PHP. No, these things are not important. End of the day, if you're doing business, you're trying and solving a specific problem and be very focused in solving that specific problem. Now look at, even if you look at the social networking space, you have Facebook, which solves a particular problem. You have LinkedIn, which solves another specific problem. The target audiences are different. The target segments are different. And both of them are very useful in very different ways. So you can't be Facebook and LinkedIn and this and that at the same time. Please take a call. What do you want to be? And then focus that problem. But at the same time, don't forget to be flexible. A lot of times what will happen, and trust me happens, is that you'll make, and has happened with me, and I'm sure it has happened with most of the entrepreneurs, they create these fantastic business plans, which are very nice, which are very solid, which are very risk-free. But when they go to the market, they see that people need those products or solutions or services, but probably in a little different way. And also, for example, they may think that I'll charge so much from a customer, but they realize that they may not get so much of money. Or the customer says, give me this in addition, and then I'll get you that money. So as far as you are within those boundary conditions of solving a specific problem and you are focused, you can be flexible. And go and read on, if you can, stories about Groupon, and these group discounting businesses which are now coming, which have come. So if you can go back and read about Groupon, they got into a business which they tried to run for 4 years. They were not very successful, but finally from those learnings they had, they got into this Groupon thing, and they're now, of course, a $1 billion organization. The other important is take advice from as many people as possible, right? Do take advice from the right people, as probably you've seen, from one of the commercials I've seen about cricket, which talks about that, don't take advice from everyone, but I would still say take advice from as many people as possible. Talk to the entrepreneurs about their learning and experiences, right? Talk to entrepreneurs whom you think are very successful. Try and also talk to the entrepreneurs who have not been so successful. And interestingly, you learn much more from people who have probably not been successful than probably who have been successful. Talk to your potential customers. Take their advice. Listen to them. And so on and so forth. Talk to your friends. Talk to people, who, I don't know if you have an opportunity to talk to your competition. Talk to them. Just try and understand what's working for them, what's not working for them. Track competition. Now, there may be a situation, and a very good situation, that you are a first mover. Then you have a great advantage. If you are the first person who has thought of that idea, of that product, or of that solution, I think you're in a fairly good situation. But if you're second, don't worry, because you have an opportunity then to improvise upon someone who was the first mover. And I'll give this example again. Google was, of course, had done some pioneering work on search, and had moved very fast, very ahead. But if you look at the latest statistics, Bing from Microsoft has caught on. Very interestingly, if you look at Microsoft, I've rarely found them to be great pioneers on any product solutions or technology, but they have always, perfected this. They have perfected this model of having the next version, or version 3, as they say, perfected. So they will look at what Google has done and immediately come around and offer something which is interesting and catch up with them. And they've done this for a lot of products and solutions, right? The fact is, even if you look at the Windows operating system, they actually looked at what Apple was doing and just, I'm not sure even if they improvised that product, but actually they improvised the marketing strategy for Windows, and they became much more successful. So if you're second or you have competition, even that is great. Don't worry about it. Read as much about the developments happening as possible. So if you're developing a CRM solution, or you're developing an ERP solution, or you're creating a local search engine, or you're creating a travel portal which is technology driven, please go ahead and read about as much as developments as happening in that industry about those technology as possible. It would help you shape up your business in a phenomenal way. Get visible on all the related forums. There are today a lot of these free PR sites. Just get visible on all of them, right? Listen to other people on them. At the same time, go ahead and advertise and market your products there. One thing which I'm not sure if I put in my slides, but what I want to talk to you is, when you're a businessman, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to save every penny and be very, very careful about spending it. And whenever you think that you have to spend X amount of money, go and question yourself that why do you have to spend that money? Is there an alternative to that? And a lot of times when you're asking those questions, you may ask, you may end up getting, redefining your business as well, right? A lot of times you may be, thinking that I'll provide, let's take YouTube, for example. You have a lot of these videos on YouTube, and you want to start something like similar to that. Hello. Sorry. I think I lost my connection. Can I ask questions or just try and understand from here if people are able to hear me? For a small while the connection was lost, and that's why I put that can you folks hear me? By any chance, if at any stage you're not able to hear me, just please put that point in the chat and I'll be very glad to come back. All right. All right, so get visible on all the related forums. So yeah, I was mentioning the point that we have to be very careful about the money which we are spending, and that may even lead to redefining our business model. And I was giving this example of YouTube, and I don't know. I mean, for example, when I'm sure YouTube would have started business, they would have thought we'll get these videos, etc., and then would have thought, what are we wanting to create? Are we want to create a platform? Are we going to create a content for this? And therefore, you may also like to do something similar, but may not be the platform player, but probably the content player. So there's a lot of such questioning on the money which you're spending or what you're wanting to spend will end up reading as well. Okay. Okay. If you guys are hearing me, because I have my doubts if my connection is lost, can you please reply me? Somebody reply me on the chat. I've asked this question. Can you folks hear me? Can somebody respond to that question? No, because otherwise even your people cannot, if they can't SMS me, then there is a problem. Right? Okay. Hmm? Ask him. Don't let go, yeah? Huh? I don't know words for this, but what we can do is like you are carrying the data. Hi, I'm back. I think we had lost connection, and that drives another important point, which is that plan for your backups if you're going for a technology-based startup. Sorry about that, guys. Some disruption, unforeseen, and I'll get back. I'm so sorry. I think I've lost a few, the attendees as well, but still, it's not bad. Let me restart. All right. Let me just come fast to resume from where we were. All right. Okay. All right. So we were at this point, get visible on all the related forums. So we come to the next point. What are the things to avoid in general? And these are no-brainers. As I said earlier as well, there is no such thing as a part-time business. Please don't get into thinking that let me do it, or let my wife drive it, and then once it scales, I'll jump in. Well, it never happens. If you want to do it now, please do it now. Validate your idea, make your business plan, talk to people, get every validation which you want to get done, but then please come full-time on board. If you won't come full-time, your customers would not be serious about you. And then the next thing is you'll get to a level, A, your business would not take off, which would not be good. B, it may take off, and then you'll get stuck at the next level, which would be much worse. Trust me on that. So no such thing as a part-time business. Please don't forget this. Don't fall in love with technology, right? So today Ruby on Rails is hot. That's the latest thing to do. That's the coolest thing to do. But for some reason, if you think that PHP would be cheaper and will do the work which you want to do, please go ahead with that. So please don't fall in love with technology. Technology doesn't matter. End of the day, whatever you're trying to do is in terms of business, you're just trying to solve a business problem. As far as that is getting solved, good. Yeah, if you have a cutting edge technology which is creating something very new, solving a big problem, absolutely go for it. But if not, don't fall in love with it, right? Love is blind, so don't forget it. All right, don't subsidize your product with the services. A lot of times, people have this very good product idea. They want to do it. They want to create a firewall. They want to create this CRM. They want to create this social networking portal. They want to create this job portal, so on and so forth. They want to create a technology community stuff. But they say, you know what, my product is going to take time, so why don't I do services also? Or why don't I add on revenue streams, right? Please don't do that. Please don't do that, because what happens is that once you get into services business, you'll start getting customers there, you'll start serving them, you'll start maintaining and addressing those challenges, and you would suddenly realize that the product which you were focusing on is gone, and you don't have time for it, and you don't have energy to focus on it. So please don't try some of these things and avoid some of these things which I've mentioned. All right. Now, funding the idea, right? A lot of you may have this question in mind that, oh, okay, I've got this good idea, but now how do I start? If I'm going to leave my job, I'm going to do away with, the nice salary I'm getting, and probably, these club memberships which I'm having, and I've got to watch, go for my spa regularly. How do I do all of that? Okay, so first thing is that when you are getting into business, please bootstrap yourself. Try and see how you're going to minimize your costs on the personal front, on the professional front, so on and so forth. Dig into your savings. Please don't go for funding unless really required. Funding is very expensive. If somebody, it's not easy to get money, but even if you have a very good idea and somebody is ready to give you money, it's going to be very costly for you in the long run. The cost of capital is very, very expensive. So please don't go for funding unless really required. Because if you go for funding, then you have to get into other basic issues, which I'll just tell you, right? So dig into your savings. But however, let's say if that's not possible, then probably start with something called angel funding, which is a small bit of money. By the way, before angel funding, so after you've dig into your savings and you think you don't have too much money, well, talk to your friends, talk to your families. You've got a rich father-in-law, nothing like it. Do all of that possible to take money. If that's not possible, then go for angel funding. All right. There are forums like Indian Angel Network, which is in Delhi. Then you have Bombay Angel Network in Mumbai. These are the people who give you seed capital, small amount of money, if they like your idea, and you can start with that money, build on your product, and then go for the next round of funding of venture capitalists. So you can go for venture funding as the next round of funding. So ideally what happens is, or normally what happens is, people take a little bit of angel funding, take their idea a little far, then once that idea has matured, they get the next round of venture funding. Now that has happened with a lot of businesses, right? If you look at MakeMyTrip.com or any of these businesses, that's how they started, that's how they evolved. All right. Now the challenge is, and why I was saying that it's not so easy, cool, or preferable to get investors is because the moment you get investors, you have to think about their exit. So how do they make money? So if somebody is investing money in your idea or plan or product, how would they get money? How would they make money back? So there are two ways for investors to get exit or make money. Either somebody acquires your company, right? And then, your company gets some money, and, that money is used to pay off the initial investors. Or your idea becomes so big that it can go to the stock market with an IPO. And that's other place where, an exit happens. But you will reach an IPO only if you are, 100 crore plus kind of a revenue stage. So you have to think through how big your idea is going to get in the next 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. What would be the exit route for your investors, right? Raising investment is not easy, but today I would definitely say that the ecosystem is much more conducive to raising money than it was probably a couple of years back. And by the way, yeah, one point which probably I have forgotten to mention here. Please go and see as much money you can get from government grants. There are a lot of these programs which government runs. Just try and go and tap all of those sources of funding, because those sources of funding are very cheap and they're really, really very helpful for entrepreneurs, right? All right. All right. We come to the end of this presentation. Entrepreneurship can be one of the most beautiful and enriching experiences to go through. But please be ready for the slog, the long haul, and the pain which comes with it. It's not a one-way street of just joy and money and richness. Most of the times, actually, it is not, right? So please be ready for the slog, the long haul, and the pain which comes with it. If you're starting your business, be very clear that you're going to be at least 7 years into that business before it either gets acquired or you reach the IPO stage or you become super successful without even any of those options as well, right? Last, don't forget you live only once. So if you're too worried about taking risk, get this line in your mind, you live only once. So thank you. Thanks so much for your time. I hope this presentation was of use. I'll be very happy to answer any questions if you may have at this point of time. All right. Somebody says laughed out loud on my point. Anyway. All right. Bharat, do you want to say something? All right. I'll just hand over the mic to Bharat, who may like to add something, and then we'll go back to answering questions.
All right. Yeah, we have one question here already.
How would we share the slides?
Right. You can speak about the question and the speaker.
All right. So we have Guruprasad from Guruprasad asking question. Can we have the slides shared? Absolutely. I think you can. As far as my email is concerned, it is just one second. Okay. I think I can't type here. My email ID is Saurabh M. If you guys are seeing this slide, it is carrying my ID here. On my slide, on my the home, the first slide, Saurabh M, SAURABHM @squotient.com, SQUOTIENT.com, right? I'm sure this webinar and all the slides which we are presenting are going to be stored on the TechGig portal. So log in and have a look at those slides. They're very much a property of techgig.com, I guess now. Thanks, Guru. I really appreciate it. Oh, Mudit Mangal has asked a very interesting question, which says that it was great presentation. Thanks, Mudit. But do we really need to have MBA business skills prior, or we learn as we work, or it's a practical approach? No, I mean, I do not think that you need MBA for sure, right? I mean, the first thing is that, the top business people in the world had actually were dropouts or they had, no formal education. They learned on their way. You need to have some skills, all right? And that's where the team becomes very important, right? You may be great in technology. If that is so, then get someone in your team who has great business skills, right? And business skills are also not, it's just not business skills. They are sales and marketing skills, they are finance skills, or so on and so forth. So if you are an MBA, great. I mean, and it works the other way around also. You may be a business person, not a technology person, and you have something, you want to do something on technology. Then what do? You're not going to learn technology all over. You can't learn coding at that stage. Rather, you would like to then partner with someone who knows technology. So that's how it is, And of course, if you're a techie and you start your business, trust me, you can learn a lot on the way. But don't wait to learn on the way. Get someone who has some of those business skills. Guruprasad has a question. How much do a typical angel funder invest? Well, it would go anywhere between, I would say, 10 lakhs to 2 crores. By and large, that is the kind of, the seed money which people or a group of, people as a part of institution are willing to invest in angel funding. Then we have Vaibhav Dixit, who asks a question. How can I present my expertise to potential customers in a way that will have value for them? How can I present my expertise to potential customers in a way that will have value for them? Well, there are two situations here, Vaibhav. Either, the customer is very clear about the problem he has, right? If that is so, just tell him that I know this is your problem, this is how you're going to solve. Sometimes the problem is latent. He doesn't know that his problem, and you will have to go and draw his attention to a problem. But end of the day, what customers understand is not what technology or what product or solution you have. What customers understand is that if they go for your product, solution, or technology, how much return on investment they're going to have, how much cost they're going to save. They understand that language. And that is how you can get their attention. Satish JV has a question. How do I locate a problem to solve? Oh my goodness. How do you? Well, I mean, there's so many problems, right? I mean, and luckily in a country like India, there's no dearth of problem, right? Right from medical, healthcare, to education, to what I would say, clean energy, clean technology, green energy. There's so many things you can do. There's so many things you can do. Read Economic Times. Read a lot about what different entrepreneurs are doing. Get logged to various sites which talk about startups and entrepreneurship. You'll get a lot of thoughts yourself. Somaditya has asked a question. Is it a good idea to first build a minimum viable product, MVP, and then add features as required by customers? Absolutely, Somaditya. I agree 200% with you. There is no point in creating, investing a lot of time, effort, and energy into creating a product. And then when you go to the market, you realize that that's not what customers need. So absolutely go with a minimum viable product, as you say, and see what features or solutions are further required by customers. Then Guruprasad has another question, that how important it is it to have a big names on the team when you are pitching for an investment? Well, I do not know what you mean by big names. Probably you're referring to people who are already successful or who have good academic qualifications. Well, end of the day, investors do look for a good team, no doubts about it. They look for people with experience. Do they have relevant experience, their educational background, so on and so forth. So big names, not important. Relevant names, yes. Relevant people, yes. Reputed, no. Again, Guruprasad just is saying that big names isn't reputed. Well, yeah, if you have it, it helps, of course, right? But then if someone is so reputed, trust me, he himself can fund that idea. if you want to, if Sabir Bhatia, for example, of Hotmail founder in some way wants to partner with you, or you want to partner with him, now that's a reputed name. But then with him, you don't have to go somewhere else for money. He has the money. So that's how it is. Then Rahul Srivastava has asked a question. How does one create IP? What gets acquired or gets higher acquisition value? Services-based large client relationships or smaller products targeted at niche needs is specific to that business? Well, a product would, okay, as a thumb rule, okay, I'm sure specific scenarios do get different. As a thumb rule, a product will always get a better valuation than services. If you look at the multiples of revenue or multiple of profit as a valuation which a product company will will be much better than services. Now that's a very broad statement. But then, the issue is that how big is the potential of that product will of course ultimately determine, this thing. So for example, if there is, somebody is making a firewall, Checkpoint is making a firewall, and you have something which will block spam more effectively, and you want to go and sell that product to him. So that's one product. The second product can be even much bigger, right? So it would depend on that. Yeah, services, but the interesting point is that product, even if it's a smaller, will get some acquisition value. Services-based business will get, acquired or will get a decent value or whatever value only if it is big. It won't get it otherwise. All right. Then Mudit has another question that if we have idea, but sometimes we hesitate to take risk on that by giving up current easygoing job, how can we overcome that? Well, no answers to that. You have to, one fine morning, just get up, go and resign. That's it, right? You have to, that is the only thing which you will have to do yourself. Rest of the things, probably a lot of people can help you. That risk you have to take. And you have to take. And trust me, there is, once, you're always worried about taking a risk till you have taken that risk. Once you take that risk, that fear factor goes away, right? Right? Probably watch Akshay Kumar in Fear Factor or whatever that program comes, Khatron Ke Khiladi, will help you in some way. I don't know if that does. Keshav Kumar says or asks, what is the role of having a good efficient team for a startup? Oh, I would go to the extent of saying that please don't start a company if you don't have a good team. Please don't start a company if you don't have a good team. Unless you have a good team, please don't start. Unless you have 2-3 good people in your team with complementary skills, please don't start. Or at worst, probably, take your product to minimum viable product and, then get team. But don't wait too much to start, to get a team in place. All right. Somaditya has another question that how do we test on a product to find out whether there is a market for the product in the first place? Well, there is no straight answer to this, Somaditya. There are various ways to do this, right? I was watching this movie, Social Network, right? And, what Mark and his friends did on that evening after getting drunk was create and ran, this, rating of the ladies, probably not the right way, but that's their way to test market their product. If you are one of my friends has just got into a business which is not a technology driven business. He's got into the business of creating energy drink. Now he's test marketing that product in various engineering colleges because he thinks that's the right place to test market his product. Various ways. I don't think there is any standard formula to that. But if the question is that should we do a test run of the product? Absolutely. Very much required. Very, very much required. Guruprasad has another question that if someone decides to fund me, is it fair to expect that my expense for livelihood is covered to some extent on it? Can that be mentioned as the part of expected expenses? Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sure you can't say that if my salary is today 25 lakhs, 30 lakhs or 12 lakhs, I would like the same kind of money. But yes, absolutely. You can say that, look, if you're funding me, this is my basic existential cost, and you need to take care of it. Right. Then Somaditya has another question. Is it important to relocate to a location where the environment is more conducive for entrepreneurship? For example, Bangalore? Yes, absolutely. But then you have to really, I'm not sure if Bangalore is still as conducive. Probably other, cities are offering, equal opportunities today. But then you have to be also very careful because, uh, the cost of starting business in Bangalore today may be higher than probably starting in Pune or starting in Kochi, right? And therefore you may find it easier to go there and start a business, right? And so, I mean, that's a comparison which you need to make. But yes, as they say in US, if you're in Silicon Valley, it's easy, you get more access to talent, right? So yeah, I mean, these are the things which you need to take care of it. Vaibhav Dixit has another question. What skills would you advise an entrepreneur to acquire except technical and product skills? Except technical and product skills. Well, have one skill at least. That's what I'll say, right? The rest of the skills, the rest of the people can give you, have more team members to give you more skills. You can't have too many skills. Just one second. Rahul has, okay, Rahul has left, I'm sorry. Okay, so we have some questions on the website as well. I'm going to answer some of those questions. If anyone wants to set up new business, what are basic requirements and how he should invest his money? There is need to keep recovery money and how much % of investment it should be. What are basic requirements? It's a very subjective question, I would say. This was asked by Yogesh Kandekar. I do not know what does he mean by basic money. Just one second. I'll start with top actually. Sorry. Okay, so I don't know what is the basic money, but you should have a fair bit of idea of what are going to be your costs for the next 1 year or 2 year. How are you going to sustain your business for the next 1 or 2 years, and what is the money you need for that? If you have that money yourself, fantastic. If you don't have that money, okay, probably then you can, look at getting funding and seeing how would it cover your cost. Then there's another question from Murli Manohar Rao, which says, what would anybody suggest IT or non-IT business? Okay, so he's probably saying that should I go into IT business or non-IT business? Well, I have no answer for this. Depends on you, what you want. Don't worry what others suggest. Just worry about what idea you have. Okay, Saurabh Sharma says, and when we start? Okay, Keshav has a question. How do you start a tech startup as a non-technical person? Well, as you'll start if you're a technical person. If you want to start a tech startup and you're a non-technical person, just get a fantastic tech person who's also willing to take risk. That's the only way, no other way to do that. Have people done that? There are a lot of people who've done that. There are a lot of people. And when you say tech startup, as I said, there can be a lot of technology kind of startup. They can be, pure tech startup or tech-driven startups. So any travel portal is a tech-driven startup, right? And Deep Kalra, who started, MakeMyTrip.com, is not a techie. So yeah, I mean, you can start. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think there are any more questions. Thank you so much. It has been a very enriching experience for me as well. Learned a lot. Thank you so much. Please post. You can post more questions on techgeek.com if you want answers to them, and I'll be very glad to answer them. Bye. See you sometime later in life.
Thanks, Saurabh, for your session on creating a technology-driven startup. It was indeed an enlightening session. I would also like to thank our participants for their support in making this webinar a huge success. Well, the recording of this webinar will be made available to you on techgeek.com tomorrow along with all these queries. So before I sign off for today, I have a couple of announcements to our users. Currently we are running the Great Indian Programming League. It's the biggest online programming contest where you need to solve some simple puzzles and win exciting prizes. So you can log on to techgeek.com/code contest and grab some prizes from there. Along with that, we are also running a logo contest for Happiest Mind Technologies Private Limited. It's open for all the professional designers and for the designers at heart too. Submit your entry and stand a chance to win $2,000 in cash. So you can log on to techgeek.com/logo contest. And our guest speaker for the next webinar is Mr. Vineet Agarwal, Head Mobile Division from Brick Technologies. The topic which is going to cover is UI design patterns and business practices for an Android developer. So see you all on next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Thank you.